Hi, I'm Amanda. I recognize some of you in the crowd, and some of you are good new faces. So, those of you that know me, excuse me, I'm going to give myself a little background and context for those who don't. My name is Amanda McGuckin Hager. I have been in Austin technology circles, I don't know, almost, I'm ashamed to say, a long time. I've been at my career almost 20 years now. And what I focus on is inbound lead gen. So building scalable, repeatable lead gen engines to drive revenue. I want to apologize that this says Agile methodology and not Lean.
Iterate.
Iterate, exactly. That's my plan. Let me just do some housekeeping. So I intend this to be a conversational talk. I don't intend to stand up here and spew at you. I really don't want to. I could, but I'd rather not. So please raise your hand as we go, and we'll start talking about how you guys can apply this to your marketing, your company, your startup, whatever you might be in. So here's what I know about Agile. Well, let me ask you, how many of you are developers? Okay. What do the rest of you do? Do you do marketing? Yes, sometimes. On a good day? Okay.
I was going to say.
On a bad day? Okay. Well, I have never been a developer. I've only been in marketing, so I don't actually know Lean methodology from a developer standpoint. So I hope you guys offer me a little bit of grace if I screw things up, or if I don't apply it one-for-one to my marketing model. I have been in, like I said, high tech for a long time, so I've worked with a lot of developers. I've worked with a lot of high tech teams. So I've taken what I have absorbed from them and applied it to marketing as the best I can do. So what I know about Lean is develop, test, iterate. Develop, test, iterate in this circle. And I hate to paraphrase it down to those three things, but that's what I know. And this is how I apply it to my marketing. So I've been in a lot of different startups, like I'm talking seed stage startups. I'm not even talking A rounds. Early things where the goal of the company is really testing the product marketing fit. It is testing, like Emiliano was saying, testing the product to serve the market's needs. So as I've been thinking about this talk, I can talk to you guys about building a lead gen engine. I think of it like a car engine. And we can talk about this part, and we can talk about that part and how it all fits together. And we will kind of touch on that a little bit. But it struck me that something is even more important than that, especially in early stage startups. It's really about the product messaging and positioning. And I don't really go around talking a lot about product messaging and positioning, but in my career these days, it's becoming more and more and more important. And I think it's really important for startups to understand, how are you going out to your market? What are you saying? Are you communicating the value props for which your market needs the most? I think this is where the Agile methodology can help so fundamentally in an early stage. Be it a new startup, be it a new product line, be it a new positioning that you're gonna try. I'll tell you this story. I recently moved to a company called People Admin. And at People Admin, they develop talent management solutions for the higher ed space, right? Colleges and universities across the United States. I don't mean to ignore you over here. I just forget you're there. I was brought in to work on this sort of secret project. It was a new thing that we were going to try, and I was really excited about it. And we were in Alpha. You guys all know what Alpha is? Yes, awesome. We were in Alpha, so I developed a leave behind that we could leave. Our goal is to get out of the building. We were going to Atlanta, Boston, and San Francisco. We're going to go talk to colleges and universities in those areas to inquire, are we on the mark with our product that we've built so far? And are we on the mark with our positioning and our messaging? Are we communicating to them the value that we think we are delivering? And is it the value that they want to receive? So I do this little leave behind sheet, this little flyer, and my product manager, the man with the best intentions who loves this product inside and out, looks at my data sheet and goes, obtain? Obtain? Is that the word? Is that the verb you're going to choose to describe this value proposition? Obtain? And I was like, seriously? Are we going to argue over this? I don't want to get into arguing over like aqua or teal, right? It's one and the same, it's blue. But this, I tell you this story because this is how you iterate on your message, right? So my response was, this is alpha, this is 100 leave behinds. If this doesn't resonate, that is great information for us to know, to take back and redo our messaging. And that's one way that I think Lean applies to marketing, even in an alpha stage, even in one little flyer that we were leaving behind. We don't have all the answers, and I think it's best when you go out and know that you don't have all the answers, you're gonna go out on a journey to get those answers. So, enough about that story. Let me, so, I work a lot in inbound marketing. How many of you know what inbound marketing means? Awesome. Awesome. For those that don't, I'm going to just kind of run through it really fast. And even for those that do, this is how I interpret and work with inbound marketing. So the first thing in inbound marketing is to attract. And I think of doing that with shiny objects. And I think of shiny objects as pieces of value that people want, right? Collateral, a white paper, a how-to. I know I just finished working at InfoChimps where we did a how to do a big data project. And what we did was took our sales cycle. Our biggest competitor was build it yourself solutions. So we took our sales cycle and the process that we took our customers through and actually put it out in a paper called How to Do a Big Data Project. Because we thought, if you can figure this out and do it on your own, more power to you. And when you can't and you fail, call us, because we can do it for you. That is a shiny object. Does everyone understand why? It helps them do their job better. It adds value to their day. It helps them do their job day in, day out. A call to action, people often overlook the call to action. You have to put your call to action on everything, everything. So what defines an A lead for you? Who wants to volunteer? Okay, we have a shy audience. Yes, Emiliano.
So an A lead for us is when we can identify how fast the company is growing, like how many people are they actually trying to hire in the next 3 months, and then for the rest of the year.
And how do you want them to convey that information to you?
Right now it's through a form.
Okay.
So we've done something to attract them already, and it's the next step of engagement.
Okay, so you've attracted them with something and you want them to fill out a form.
Yeah, but we're not doing a good job of attracting them so far yet. So
okay.
Very few people are giving us the information right now.
So you're working on that, but the gate that you want them to pass through to become an A lead is this form.
Yeah, I feel like that's the one point that really helps qualify them,
okay.
That we should have a conversation.
Perfect. So that form goes on everything. Put it in your press release boilerplates. Do you know what those are? The About Us section at the bottom of the press release. Put it in your emails. Put it in your email signature if you want. Put it everywhere that you can. That is your call to action through which you want everyone to come through. That's what you want to promote the most. So now that you've attracted them and they filled out your form, you have to deliver on what you've set out to do, right? This is the gum wrapper example that I've used in the past. You've attracted them with a shiny object, and when they go to pick it up, if they find out it's just a gum wrapper, they're going to be pretty disappointed. You really want to deliver on what you say you're going to deliver. That's the high quality point. Anything that you deliver should answer what I call what's in it for me, or I'm old school, and we used to actually have radio stations, FM radio stations, and I refer to this as WIIFM radio station. What's in it for me? It has to deliver, it has to answer that question for your reader, for your whatever it is. Maybe it's a demo, an online demo user. LCD is a concept that I like to think of, I'm sure it's not unique, the lowest common denominator is what it stands for, lowest common denominator. Meaning, when I write content, I try and write it at a 8th to 10th grade level, sometimes even 5th grade level, depending on what it is. If it's a highly technical piece of content, I try and go as low as I can on an English grade ability scale, because quite honestly, English may be a second language for some of your audience. I know in my technical background, it has been a second audience for many of my personas. I don't want to complicate the buying cycle. I want to make it easier. I'll tell you the story. I worked at a startup that had a new leadership had come in, and the new leadership wanted to really position the startup as a very strategic sale, very high-end enterprise sale, very elite, very exclusive type sale. That is one way to approach the market and is often successful depending on how you execute. We were doing a press release. I wrote the press release, sent it to him for review, he rewrote it. Not uncommon. What I got back was a press release that when I ran it through a gradability score, have you all used those gradability, usability reader calculators online? You enter in your content, and it tells you your content is a scale, your content is at a 10th grade level, or your content is at an 8th grade level, based on sentence structure and vocabulary and some other things. If you haven't ever used one, I recommend you do, because this is what happened with this press release. I sent it through, it came back at a grade of 20. You had to be postdoctorate to be able to understand this press release, which is really exclusive, I might say, right? There aren't many people postdoctorate, let alone reporters. So this is where that fell apart, is a press release, the audience of a press release are reporters. Reporters generally don't have postdoctorate level degrees. It's not a common, they might have one, there might be a few reporters out there, but in general, they don't. So that press release was sure to fail the audience, right? So think of that lowest common denominator. That is, it's really important that you appeal to who you're going after and make it easy for them to read and understand. Yes?
Just a funny example of that. Our product at one point had messaging in it that said, fully integrated vehicle listing. And I still don't even know what that really means. But obviously that was not going to score well in terms of our target audience, who is not necessarily at that, probably above the 10th
grade level, yeah. And it's not bad to write above 10th grade level. I just want to point out that I think Time Magazine writes at somewhere between a 5th and 8th grade level, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody can Google that and verify my fact. But Time Magazine, a major magazine in the US market, writes at that level. So let's bring all this back to Lean. So how can Lean apply to situations like this? Just this readability example is one perfect example. You have one deliverable, one product, it's your press release. You write it once, test it, iterate on it, run it through readability, iterate on it, and then let it go, see how it goes in the market. Now you see how it fared once it's out there. Did anybody pick it up? Did anybody care? You can now test and iterate on your message. Maybe your value proposition in that press release wasn't strong enough. Maybe the seasonality of it didn't match up. Maybe, who knows what happened, but run it, see what happened, learn what you can learn, and try it again. I'm not going to go into the conversion because there's literally books and websites dedicated to conversion, and they're really great, and I'm not an expert, but you all know that the art of conversion is indeed part art, part science, and if you don't know enough about it, you should learn it. Is that fair? Is everyone good with that? Okay. And then repeat. Do it again. Keep going. Uh-oh. I pushed the wrong button. Okay. Let's talk about a lead engine. Who knows what I mean? Not you, Rhea. Who knows what I mean when I say lead engine? Who wants to take a stab at defining it? None of you? Okay. When I think of a lead engine, like I said, I think of the car engine, right? I worked at SolarWinds. Who knows SolarWinds? SolarWinds, big IT company here in town, IT management. When I started, there were 300 people. There's over like 3,000 people now. I'm not even sure. It's ginormous. I waited strategically to get into that company because their marketing model at the time was talked about on Wall Street, and it was talked about in Silicon Valley as one of the leaders of inbound marketing. And they weren't even really associated with HubSpot, who say they coined the term inbound marketing. So what they had going on was something really special. I worked with the hiring manager for about a year until I found the role that I really, really wanted, which was I wanted to be able to come in and see what was going on. How did they do what they were doing? If you think of gearheads, like in the engine of the car, I had to see under that hood. I had to see how everything was connected, how it all worked together. What were the levers that they pushed and pulled on to drive more leads through the engine? How did they drive the pipeline? How did they do the sales? So I finally had that opportunity, and I went in and I got my first understanding of how that engine was built. I since have gone on to 2 other startups and built lead engines from scratch, leveraging what I learned at SolarWinds, but using new tools and trying to keep up to date with the market today. So I'm going to share a little bit about that with you now. So when I think of a lead engine, there's the pieces, the car parts, if you will, are the infrastructure systems. So there's always a CRM system in everything I do, and I'll be honest with you, it's always Salesforce. I don't know how to work with another CRM system. Marketing automation software, I've worked with Eloqua, I've worked with HubSpot. I have not yet worked with Pardot or Marketo, but I hear those are great. I'm about to work with Marketo in about 2 months. Web analytics, GA. Everyone uses GA, yes? And there's all kinds of other ones out there. Crazy Egg has always been fun for me. There are other things, Omniture, if you're so lucky to work with Omniture. An email system, this is for me, take it or leave it. I don't need a MailChimp when I have a HubSpot. Some infrastructures do need an email system. A payment system, if you're taking web payments, an A/B testing system. I was this close to getting to work with Optimizely, but I didn't get a chance. Does anybody here work with Optimizely? Do you like it?
Yeah, it's a good tool.
Yeah. I hope to have that chance one day. If support or community, Zendesk. What's the other one that I work? Get Satisfaction. Freshdesk.
Yeah, FreshBooks came out with some FreshDesk now.
Okay.
So yeah, it's kind of a new one out.
And then there's an Odesk. Is that?
No, that's,
Is that something different?
Redplace.
That's what?
That's a hiring site.
Oh.
It's for outsourcing.
Yeah, outsourcing.
No, that's not the Odesk I was thinking.
Yeah.
I know, it's like Elance, right? Odesk is like Elance.
Right.
Okay, my bad. It's another term. Anyway, so you have all these systems, and how do you work them all together, right? I've spent a lot of time thinking, how do all these work together? How does the data from one system flow to the next system, and what data really does need to flow, right? Not everything needs to go in. I was just building an infrastructure system for a mobile application not too long ago, and we were looking at Mixpanel as our in-product metrics. We had Google Analytics in there as well. And we had a Marketo or HubSpot, whatever we decided to plug in. And we spent a long time talking about how are we going to take all the information from Mixpanel, the user engagement and the adoption of the product, and drive that into HubSpot so that we could do marketing automation emails to drive people down through the funnel. And I'll tell you, we didn't get very far because it was a little overwhelming. Who's successfully navigated that task? One out of all of us?
Lifecycle email?
Awesome. Well, the ability to look at all the metrics that Mixpanel gathers and decide what data of that needs to go into the marketing system to drive that funnels. So you've done that?
So I have not used Mixpanel, but I built a tool that did more of that.
Yeah. It is a hard task, but it's a really worthy one. So if you have the time and the energy, I would prioritize it if you can. It's going to be really important to know how all those play together when you're driving your leads. Does everyone get why? Do I have to dive into that?
So, I guess I don't, like, are you talking about how you're gonna, like, go out at different campaigns depending on the segment and so on, looking at users and using the products for those current users you already have and to try to get insights from that to plan your campaigns, or you're talking about
Yes.
marketing to them?
Well, exactly that. So what are the topics that I need to deliver in email campaigns? That's really vital, but even more importantly, how can I use the in-product metrics to further drive the funnel? So if I understand that nobody's using a feature, I don't necessarily want to promote that feature. Or do I? Does it have an impact on the sales pipeline? Are people missing the value of that feature in some way, shape, or form? Those are the questions that I would look to the in-product metrics to show me the answers to. And then how do I deliver those in-product metrics, those people from Mixpanel, into HubSpot so I can send them emails or nurture them along the path? Does everyone know what a drip campaign is? Yes. And everyone knows what a sales funnel is.
I don't know what a drip campaign is.
A drip campaign? When I think of a drip campaign, so I should say that I think of everything in a sales funnel. It has, like, for better or worse, it is the foundation of my life. So at the very top, you have your nurture section, and the goal is to get them down to the close line at the bottom of the funnel, right? So if I have people come in at the nurture section, they have maybe taken down a piece of content that was delivered enough value to exchange an email address, but maybe not enough value to ask for a demo or whatever my A lead CTA is. I want to drive them to the next level through drip campaigns. So I'm going to nurture them along. I'm going to send them an email this week. I may send them an email in 2 more weeks. I may say, oh, don't forget about this webcast that's coming up. So to drip them is to, like, slowly drip them communications. I noticed, thank you for that question, by the way. I noticed some of you did not nod when I said sales funnel. Should I go into what a sales funnel is? Would anyone find value in me going through my sales funnel? Yes, a few. I'm going to expose myself and show you all my desktop. But I have a really good sales funnel. Don't take pictures of it, okay? This is
Can we record this talk?
is this talk being recorded?
And actually it is, but yeah.
Well, I'm going to show it to you very quickly, short enough where you can't read any of it, but you can look at it.
Ask everyone to squint.
Yeah, everybody.
Are you using Salesforce for your sales funnel?
No, I actually drew it in OmniGraffle. How's that? So this is a company which shall remain nameless. This is the funnel that I did for them. So when I say sales funnel, there is a way to build it in your Salesforce. There is a way to build it into all your systems. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm actually talking about the decision between sales and marketing and the rest of the executives to say, this is our process, this is our sales funnel, these are the gates through which people have to pass to get to the next level. Now, I'm in a company that's 12 years old now, and I'll have to tell you that I'm just starting to map this out. Everyone knows it. It seems like everyone there knows it. It's in their head, but nowhere is it on paper. And for new people like me, it's really helpful to have it on paper. So this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about a sales funnel. You have the different levels. You have the different people. In this particular example, marketing was going to work the first 2 levels, then it hands off to inside sales, then it hands off to sales directors. Depending on your model, you may not have these teams. It may be just website and then support. You'll have to figure that out for yourself. But what are on this side, you can see that we've mapped out what are the questions and the gates through which people have to pass to get to the next level. So there's certain criteria. It's really, really beneficial for sales and marketing to shake hands and say, yes, we agree. When someone takes these actions or goes through these gates, it moves to the next level. If you have any breakdown between your sales and marketing teams at that point, or any disagreement among your leadership, you're sunk. So I'm going to quickly get that done.
Credit close.
Yes?
So it looks like on there, like you have also, what are some of the decision points and what are some of the objections? And then probably what are the qualifiers that you need to actually size up the companies?
This doesn't have objections in it. For those, I would think of a battle card. You all know what a battle card is?
No. Okay.
A battle card is, think of it like a sales cheat sheet. It's a quick reference doc, like a Cliff Notes doc on, you can segment a battle card out for anything. You can segment it for a certain market. You can segment it by certain product lines. You can segment it by competitors. But it's basically a quick reference that says, let's take the competitor example. Competitor X, this is how competitor X positions itself. This is how we position ourselves. These are some things you need to know about the market opportunity, the target audience, differentiators, anything that would help your sales team. It's an internal sales tool. It's not ever intended to be external. So going back to your question regarding the funnel, I would put all of those things on a sales battle card and provide the sales team with those. These are simply criteria through which people have to pass to get to the next stage. I don't know, just thinking video games, right? You have to like unlock 7 achievements before you can get to the next gate or whatever. It's kind of the same thing. You have to pass through these things before you can get to the next one. Any other questions?
I have a question back to the drip.
Yes.
So I'm testing a drip campaign, and so I want to use the lean methodology, right? So I don't have all my emails written, but I wanted to see if anybody would even sign up to see if my campaign was even interesting, right? Am I giving away something that's shiny? What's like an industry standard opt-in rate for a drip campaign or a white paper? Is there like a 6%? If I get 6%, that's interesting versus, you know, it needs to be closer to 50%.
I know I don't feel good about telling you this answer, but I think it's the best answer. It just really depends. It depends on your product, it depends on your market, it depends on your email. I think the best thing to do if you were to apply the lean methodology is try one email and then compare it to the next and learn what you can learn from that. Some things will be similar, some things will be different, right? Maybe you sent it Tuesday at 10 a.m. and you sent the second email Thursday at 3 p.m. and your messaging was different, and now you're wondering, was it the messaging or was it the fact that I sent them on different times and dates? You'll have to decipher that as you go and as you learn. I had the good fortune of working in big data, which big data is a really hot term right now. It's a really hot market, and so it was a really awesome place to be. Some of the conversions that we got were upwards of 30%. I haven't seen that anywhere else. I think a number of things played into it. I think the way we approached the market, what we had to offer, there was some brand affinity there. And just the sheer fact that we were in big data, and while the rest of the market was talking about big data in these nebulous terms, we were trying to do our best to provide like real meat. Like here's some real solid information that you can use today about big data. And I think it behooved us, right? I think the metrics showed that we were doing something right. I can't take that apple and compare it to your orange, right? It's just too hard to do. So I think the best thing you can do is learn what you can learn from your market and just keep going. Try one email, try another, and see what lifted and what didn't, and go from there. Yes?
So how do you measure the success of your marketing campaign? Many times people spend a lot of things in, maybe they construct a funnel, saying that how many people visit your website, what are the areas where they leave your website, and you might track that. How do you really convert that into actual sales? So a lot of companies that actually focus on marketing, they will run several campaigns, but it's very difficult to determine was this campaign that led to the conversions, was this just the product was so good that it led into the conversions. Like, how do you really attribute as to what kind of revenue is to be attributed to the marketing?
So I heard a lot, that's a meaty question. I heard a lot of things in there.
I wanted to make sure that it's clear enough.
Let me state your question back to you to make sure I understand. So you have a funnel set up for web traffic, and what people are coming in and out of that funnel at various points in the web. They may or may convert to a product sale. And then your question is, how do you go back and attribute that to the marketing campaigns? Some of that is in your metrics and in your tracking, in some of the infrastructure. Oops, let me fix this. Into some of the infrastructure systems that you put in place. Some of that, I don't know what I did wrong here, guys, I'm sorry. Some of that, you know, when you stated your question, my first inkling was your sales funnel didn't go down far enough. If you're just looking at web traffic and campaigns, and you stop before revenue, then you can't understand how marketing drives the pipeline. In that sales funnel instance that I shared, we tracked the source of every lead in Salesforce. So we were able to look at the pipeline week over week and say this deal came from an inbound lead and it came from this campaign. It came from this inbound lead and it came from that campaign. And we did that through Salesforce and HubSpot. Very simply, just those two systems. How do you, I haven't worked in a model where I'm actually tracking web traffic. I know, I hate to say it. I had a VC come out to me and he's like, why aren't you tracking web traffic? And I was like, at this point, I don't care. He's like, what? I was like, I know, I just said it. I said it. I don't care. I care about the A leads. That's what I'm trying to drive. When I figure out what's driving those, then I can backtrack and go in a layer deeper and look at web traffic. But I've only got so many hours in a day. So, does that help you? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I can follow it up a little bit. So what I essentially wanted to do, I think you did answer partly, but what I was looking for was, so when the budgeting is done in a company, right? You invest in R&D budget would be this much, sales would be this much, marketing would be this much. Suppose you are the marketing executive and you want to take in a budget for yourself. How would you justify your case that, okay, X amount of money should be given to me, hence I will convert it into this much amount of revenue.
Yes.
So how do you make that case for you and how do you get the budgeting from your executive? So that's what I was trying to say, like how do you justify that, okay, if you give me X dollars, I'll show you this much in return. That's what the question everybody is asking.
Yeah.
It seems that a lot of time people are throwing darts in the air. They do, Google Analytics, this analytics, that analytics, do campaigns, conferences, etc. But it's anybody's guess. Like everybody wants to take the credit. Well, it came through word of mouth. It came find me this contact and whatnot. And even in advertising, you would see that multiple people see multiple things. They may have seen an ad on television, on a billboard. They may have known it from a friend, and someday they would have decided to go and buy a product. Then who do you attribute it to? Like, where did it really exactly come?
Right. So the first part of your follow-up question that I understood was the magic equation, right? Of I dump in X number of dollars to get X number of A leads, to get X number, well, it may even be to get X number of leads, out of which I'll get X number of A leads, out of which I'll get X number of sales, which then have an average lifetime value of Y, and then here's our financial model, right? Everybody wants to know that. That is the hardest thing to figure out. There are so many variables to that equation. I'll never forget, I was working at a startup long ago. It doesn't exist anymore. It was called QuickShift. It was a database technology that accentuated the speed of the database. And when it worked phenomenally well. And when it didn't, it wiped out the whole database. So guess why it's not around anymore? Yeah, I'll never forget, we had a major healthcare provider call and be like, our database is gone. What? But I'll never forget sitting in the CEO's office with the VP of sales, and they're like, okay, Amanda, all we need to figure out is how many leads do we need to get how many demos, to get how many sales? Go. I can't answer that. I can't answer that. It's this lean methodology, right? We have to try and test and try and test. And there's so many variables to every number in that equation that that equation is going to be ever evolving, right? I know that's not the answer you were looking for, but that's based on my experience. That's the best answer I can give you.
Using of big data as you just elicited right now would have helped you doing that?
When I was in the big data company, did we figure that out?
Would you, if you were to apply a big data modeling for what you said, multiple variables, multiple parameters, would it have helped you if you were to employ a modeling using big data?
Yes, I think it would have. I mean, at any given time, I could look at the pipeline and say 60 to 70% of those came from inbound, and then I can backtrack from that. But a lot of that came from the marketing campaigns that we were doing. I do have to say, it feels fantastic to look at a pipeline, a multi-million-dollar pipeline, and be like, yeah, I brought all those in. Yes.
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, in an ideal world, what you have is you know what your lifetime value is of your user, and you know the customer acquisition cost, and that can really drive your engines of growth. And that would be something to look up. Eric Ries has this whole concept around engines of growth, and it sort of differentiates between paid, sticky, and I think viral. And there, the thing is, it takes a lot of sophistication to get not even good numbers, but accurate numbers. But a lot of that is really, you have to be able to identify the source level, and then it's not enough just to look at acquisition. You actually have to see, if you do, how many people who actually come in from referral turn into paying customers, and do they have a lifetime value that's 2 times longer than someone we got in an ad? But that would be a good jumping point. It's hard to do, but the source level stuff and having a benchmark of how much do we make on average from our customer and what are we willing to spend to get them is a way to start at least getting something to the model.
Yes. That is, in my mind, a very sophisticated way of doing it. I'm a very simple person, or I try to be, so I would never have made it that far without like an analytics person at my side. I'll just be honest with you. I don't have that level of sophistication, and on a small startup team and a team of 2 or 3, we had Rhea, Caroline, and myself were the marketing engine. I don't know that we could have gotten that far. There were so many things to do. I'm not saying that's not a worthy exercise. It absolutely is. What I've seen a lot of startup companies do, I mentor here, and I don't know that I've seen any of my mentees in the audience. Oh, there they are. There's 2.
In the front.
But I see a lot of companies struggle with analysis paralysis, right? Like, what are the metrics that I need to follow? And I'm so deep in metrics. I have companies that sit down in front of me and they're like, I'm running this campaign and my metrics are X. And I'm like, and so what? What does that mean to you? I can't tell you. I'm just on the outside looking in. I can't tell you what that means. Well, we don't know what it means. We want you to tell us what it means. I can't give you that answer. I don't know your market, your industry, your product. So if I could offer you anything, it would be my word of caution. Just be careful there. Yes?
So taking what you just said, you're on the outside of their industry. You're basically looking at this thing as a black box. We're outside, we're going to probe it, going to see the response. But you've actually got somebody who's really, if you find an A-list or if you find somebody who can be converted into an A-list, you've got somebody who is incented to make you successful. So if you go to them and ask them, what would it take for you to know that we're doing the right things here, you can essentially get the box to squawk. You can get the box to say, do this, 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 and this, and then we would buy. We'd buy in 6 months, we'd buy in 10 minutes, whatever it is. So I think there's a distinction between figuring out what the right metrics are, or, and this goes back to the lean piece, go talk to some customers.
Yeah. Getting out of the building and talking with people is your most critical piece. If you're going to skimp on any piece, please let it not be that one. To your exact point, let's go back to the startup where I was working with a really fancy president, a really smart president with a 20 grade level PhD. We were approached by a ginormous company, retail company in town, that said, we want your software, but we need you to change only these small 17 things about it in order for us to buy from you. And that leadership did the right thing and went and talked to 17 other customers to decide, are these the right 17 things to do? Or if we do these things, do we just end up being the monkey for this one big customer? And it turns out that was the answer, and we turned that big retail customer away. That's hard to do when they're offering you many, many millions of dollars and you're on a startup budget. But it was the right thing to do because we wouldn't have been able to serve the rest of the market. Right? That's a good example of getting out of the office and talking to other people. I hope that drives your point.
I think it does.
So, any other questions right now? Yes?
So the examples that you were quoting, do they apply to both consumer business and enterprise business, or would you have done it differently if it were for consumer and for enterprise?
That's a great question. So the question is, does this apply to B2C consumer businesses as much as it applies to B2B? I'll be honest with you, I have very limited consumer experience, and it's so old that it's not even relevant anymore. Back then, I had a CEO that stood over me and went, I need web traffic today. Traffic, today. What are you doing to drive traffic today? And I was like, oh my God. I'll never be able to get anywhere if I'm just driving traffic day by day basis, right? And that was when web traffic was everything that mattered. All the VCs just want to see your web traffic. It doesn't apply anymore. So just real fast back to this, to just touch on it. You have an infrastructure tool set. It's your metrics. To this gentleman's point, and to Emiliano's point of the Eric Ries, when you're building things and you want to be able to look back and see at what source produces what quality of customer, and the leads that I'm driving from this campaign drive a better, high quality paying customer more so than that campaign. You'll only be able to answer that when you're ready if your infrastructure is built correctly. So you have to take that into consideration. Grow your infrastructure, start simple, but build it so you can scale with the questions that you want to ask. Wired together, figure out how it's all wired together, how the data that you're going to pass between the systems. The linear process, map it to the funnel. I showed you the funnel example. Make sure that you understand how all that works together and supports your funnel. Your funnel is your most important thing. And then the metrics, keep it simple. Is that a question?
It is. And
Yeah.
to follow up to what you just said about wiring the tools together.
Yes.
Is that a matter of scripting, data?
Data scripting?
I'm trying to get a sense of, if you put a tool set together that does, soup to nuts,
Yes.
just like you've got there, you've got this data that's flowing from one tool to the next, that's in different formats, whatever. I'm trying to get a sense for how hard it is to actually manage the data transformation from one tool to the next.
That's a great question, and it depends on the funnel that you want to build. I like to build simple funnels because I'm, again, a simple person. So I've worked with Salesforce and HubSpot and have been able to wire the data in between those two together myself. I don't have any engineering background. I don't know how to script a thing, but I do know what data fields that I want to capture on a reg form and what data fields I want to pass through to a lead form and what fields go from a lead form to an opportunity record in Salesforce.
Salesforce to HubSpot for you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just say that one more time?
Sure.
No, that's not.
And a little slower. Okay, I'm a simple person. No, I'm just kidding. Salesforce and HubSpot. So HubSpot is your reg form, and I know what fields I want to capture on the reg form. With HubSpot and Salesforce, there's an already built pre-integration that I'm able to define what fields come from the reg form over to the Salesforce system on the lead record, and then what fields go from the lead record onto the opportunity record.
Okay.
HubSpot reg form, Salesforce lead record, opportunity record. And you can think of that in the funnel too, right? Your funnel system up front, up top, I should say, and further down. Is that good?
Yeah, that helps, thanks.
Okay.
It's a little too fast the first time.
Sorry. Thank you for slowing me down. And I meant that in a good way. Okay, so this is how relevant. Do you guys want to go into this slide? This is how I drive the funnel. So, and if you take the car example, you have a car, you have an engine, you've figured out how it all works together, how they all leverage off of each other, but now you have to add the gas, right? You have to add oil. So this is what I refer to as the gas. How are we going to drive the engine? This is content marketing. So I didn't start out in content marketing, but I ended up in content marketing. So you have to first figure out, you have some information that you need to convey to the market. So you have to figure out how are you going to do that. So the first thing is your content type. How are you going to convey it? In what way? Is it going to be a report? Is it going to be a how-to paper? Is it going to be industry news? Do you want it to take a more informational tone? Do you want it to take an educational tone? Are you just going to announce it? You have to figure out first your content type. The second one is your format. So you decide it's going to be a how-to. Okay, a how-to what? Is it going to be a how-to video? Is it going to be a how-to white paper? Is it going to be a presentation? Are you going to put it in a JPEG and some sort of infographic to get sent out as a picture? Does it belong in a press release? I'll tell you, in my most successful campaigns, I've picked 2 or 3 different formats and conveyed the same message in 2 or 3 different ways. Why? Because you want to meet your audience where your audience is. You want to go to them. I know I said attract, but you can only attract them if you get in front of them, right? And then figure out your channel. So now that you have a JPEG, where are you going to put it? What channels are you going to send it through? Are you going to send it out to a bunch of bloggers? Are you going to put it on, is it visually? Are you going to put it on social media? Are you going to put it in your emails? Where are you going to put that? These are the 3 steps to content marketing. 1, 2, 3. Yes.
So you had a real interesting example earlier with the info chips example where you were targeting an audience that, or the value proposition ultimately for the product was, you're not going to do it yourself. We're gonna help do it for you, right?
Yes.
But your content marketing was focused on an audience that wanted to do it for themselves, at least initially, and your content was also targeted towards the do-it-yourself.
Yes.
Right? So that's really interesting. My company is currently in a similar situation. We are targeting consumers that don't want to do it themselves. But we face a little bit of a challenge when we're pushing out all this content on social media and then measuring the engagement that we get, because we're pushing out all this how-to stuff. But these people don't want to know how to. They want to instead have somebody guide them through the process, not tell them how to do it themselves. So we're doing the how-to thing, because for lack of a better idea. But maybe that is the right idea, to push the how-to content. But we're trying to figure out content that we can push out where we have a lot of content besides just, hey, we'll help you do this yourself. Contact us, right? I mean, that's one way of doing it, but how much can you vary that content? So that's the struggle that we have, is how to do content marketing to people who don't really want content.
How to do content marketing to people who don't want content. So, what do they want? Who asked that question? Kudos.
They
What
want
do they want?
results. I am the same thing. I can't tell my guys how to do it. They want to get it done, but we tell them these are great ways to make it work, and they would really want us to just implement it for them. So it's like I run into the same thing where we try to send out, take these 5 steps, and they'll read it, but they won't actually take those 5 steps. If you can get a face-to-face with them, or a screen share session, you can kind of get them to go, okay, these guys have some tools, and then they're like, okay, go implement it for us. And so it's really a struggle
And do you sell implementation?
We really don't.
You
Right?
don't.
We sell a platform to implement it yourself,
I
but they're
see.
like, we don't really want to actually push all the buttons ourselves,
Right.
but we would like to have the end result if you'll push all of it for us.
Have you considered selling implementation?
Yes, it's kind of something we're rolling around a little bit here. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, maybe we should just offer consulting on top of it and say, hey, you can push the buttons yourself for this cheap little $50 a month price, but if you want us to push the buttons, then it's $500 a month or
Yes.
something like that.
That's
And
exactly what I do with my consulting.
right. It's kind of
And if you want me to actually do the work, it's gonna cost you a lot.
right. That's
Guarantee you
kind of
somebody
where
else
we
will
are
tell
at
you
this
cheaper.
stage. It's like, well, maybe we just have to say, listen, it costs a lot more if you want to do that.
Yeah.
And then they backpedal a little bit, so
Yeah.
it's kind of a
Or you
trick.
could set up a partner system where we'll do it for 1,000, whatever rubles, whatever you're gonna charge. But these are a partner ecosystem that you may consider calling for a lot cheaper.
Right. Maybe we set up a lead generation for them. I didn't mean to interrupt your question there. I just seemed like
Is that an applicable answer to your situation?
I'm not sure.
You're
I don't
not
know.
sure.
It's a strange question that I pose. How do you do content marketing to people who don't
To
want
people who don't want
content?
content. So I want to come back to your question. So you sell a solution for how people can do it themselves. Is that right?
No, the opposite.
You sell a solution for people who don't want to do it themselves.
That's right. They want to be guided through the process.
Okay.
We can't do it for them,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't want to do it. They want to be guided.
They want somebody to hold their hands.
Step by step. Yep.
And that's not what you offer. That's not what you sell. You don't sell, oh, we'll hold your hand through the process, or you do.
That's our messaging.
But what do you sell?
We sell an online experience that does that, or
That walks them through?
will once it's
Okay.
fixed a bit.
Okay. So you sell a solution that will guide them through implementation, holding their hands all the way through.
Mhm.
Okay. And your messaging is, here's how you can do it yourself.
Well, our content is that,
Your-
but our like our value proposition, our value
Right.
statements.
I should say
revolve
your
around being guided.
your engine fuel
Yes, that's right.
is, here's how you can do it yourself.
That's right.
How are
Here's some
you?
useful information about if you were going to do this piece of it
Mhm.
yourself. This is how you would do it.
Mm-hmm. So what I don't know, I haven't seen your stuff, I don't even know where you're working anymore. So I don't know anything about what you offer, so bear with me when I say, it sounds to me, just from the little bit that I know, that the bridge is missing. The bridge between the two concepts is missing. So what are you doing in your fuel to build that bridge, to say, here's how you can do it yourself, or you can call us?
Okay, I got it. So in other words, the content, there's content, but then there's also this bridge.
That's the call to action. In your specific example, I would say you're missing your call to action.
Got it.
You're missing the opportunity to drive A leads. And I don't mean you in particular. I don't mean to pick on you. The company is missing the opportunity to drive that call to action and to build that bridge. It's exactly what we did at InfoChimps. We started out, we did this survey. We found out that 55% of big data projects fail. And then we offered, here's how to do a big data project. Why? Because we knew on the back end that you would probably fail. The odds are against you. But more power to you for trying, right? You're gonna learn a lot in that path. You may use some budget. You may decide, oh, the value prop of actually having the implementation done for us is so much greater because we tried it and it's really messy and it's really hard. So we were able to build that bridge by offering the little bit of the about InfoChimps, put the value prop in there.
No, that's great. That's something that we can try and form the basis for some future experiments.
Some future fuel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. We'll add some bridges and we'll
Good,
see how they convert.
good. We'll keep you posted.
So I have a question about channels.
Yes.
You mentioned all these different channels, especially Twitter and social.
Mm-hmm.
You can put content out there.
Mm-hmm.
Twitter is almost like there's a difference between talking into an empty room and having a conversation. So someone, you know, someone's listening. I have a lot of contacts. I go to conferences. I meet people who I know I want to talk to. How do you engage people in conversations, understanding that the sales process, you know, the building of the relationship takes time, and that person may not give you an immediate return.
Yeah.
But it's something that, but you can tag them in your tweets, but there's like no acknowledgement. How often is too often, and how much is too much, and how much is too little? Does that make sense?
Yes, that's a good question.
Can you repeat the
Can you
question?
summarize the question?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it on the mic so you guys can hear it. So her question, if I understood it correctly, was she goes to a lot of conferences, she's using social media. Sometimes it feels like talking to an empty room. How do you know when someone's listening? How do you know, how do you start the engagement process with them? And how do you know when too many how do you know when you've reached out too much or too little or just right? Is that?
That's perfect.
Okay. So that's a great question. I can say that there's a little stat somewhere in the back of my head that's something like, on average, brands need 7 touch points before they're remembered, if I'm not mistaken. So where do your tweets play in those 7 touch points? And how is that, take that industry average stat, and how does that apply to your market, your product, your service solution that you're offering, and the people in it? So maybe in your particular case, it's 14 touches before they really get it or begin to know you. I know in big data and a name like InfoChimps, right? It didn't take 7 because that's a really sticky name. People don't seem to forget it, or they go, oh, you're the monkey company, right? I think it depends and it varies. So you have to take that and adopt it for yourself. As far as talking into an empty room, I can say that here's an example of me going out into the wild, out of the building, right? In that alpha program that I mentioned earlier, I had to go speak with, I had lined it up, we were gonna talk to 48 customers, prospects. I reached out, I spent like 2 days reaching out, cold calling, cold emailing customers, and got nothing. And I have to tell you how disheartened I was. I walked into my boss's office and I was like, nobody wants to talk to me. Nobody. They don't want to have anything to do with me. And it was really disappointing, right? I have this awesome thing that's going to totally improve your life, and you don't even want to talk to me at all about it. That can be sad. But I think that for me in this instance was an opportunity to refine my messaging, to refine the way I was going out, and to test how it was working. The way that I was opening up that my emails was too long, it was too convoluted, it was too much information, it was the end of I was going out to professors, it was the end of the semester, they're checked out. So it was a learning opportunity for us to reiterate on that. Now I ended up getting 12, and I was so excited. And then they killed the project, but that's how things roll. I can tell you the Twitter that I knew years ago is not the Twitter that is today. It is, in my mind, much more of an empty room today than it was 3 or 4 or 5 years ago when I got on. There really was engagement and conversation, and now I agree, it feels a lot like shouting into an empty room sometimes. I don't necessarily have an answer for you, but maybe that's not the best channel anymore. Test, iterate, try again. Test your messaging, refine your angles. Does anyone else have any advice to share on that point?
What is the best channel based on metrics?
Who asked me that question?
I did. I'm sorry I didn't raise my hand.
No. I just wanted to make sure I was looking at the right person.
I was just asking, what is the best channel based on the metrics? Across all industries, all...
You want the golden egg.
Traditionally,
If you
what's the
had
best
that, you
channel?
would be that.
I'll tell you my golden egg is my house list, my house email list. The more contacts that I can drive to my house email list, the better I am as a marketer. This is something that I learned from SolarWinds, who had a house list of like 1.3 million when we had 300 employees. I'm sure their house list is ginormous now, and that was only really in the US. But they did that by driving the funnel in two ways. They had a free tool, which was a subset of functionality of their product. And then that free tool drove to a free trial, which was a fully functioning, timed out product. It was a 30-day trial. And then that drove installations to sales. So they built their house list by offering this free tool. You had to register with your email address to get your free tool. And it worked like gangbusters. Now that was one industry, that's IT management. I don't know if that applies to any of you or your products. When I got to the higher ed space, it didn't really apply. And the enterprise sale, it didn't really apply. So now we have to go out and use content instead of free tools. But the point is that you offer something of value, just enough value to gain an email address of a targeted prospect. Now, I worked at InfoChimps, and we had to request a demo as our A lead, and I'll never forget sitting next to my sales guy who just got off the phone and was like, well, that was grandma looking for the Scrabble word data set. I was like, what? How did that happen? Those things are bound to happen. They're gonna happen, and you need to tell your sales team they're gonna happen. Just ask them to politely forgive you and move on. When you're in the business of contact acquisition, it just happens. The sales team will complain. They'll get one bad lead and be like, oh, your marketing sucks. But forge on, because it doesn't suck. Does that answer your question? I love building a house list.
That's what I keep hearing.
Yeah.
An email list is a vetted, filtered email list is better than anything.
And I'll tell you, I learned something new. So the company I was acquired by is Vista Equity Group here in town. They have a practice. Am I running out of time? Have I run out of time? A little bit. They have a practice where they use interns to go out and gather a prospect database. And when I first learned about it, I was like, oh, brilliant. This is so brilliant. They're using MBA program interns. Of course, we are surrounded by how many universities here in town? You could get undergraduate interns. Now, the way that you get interns, by the way, is to offer course credit or offer a reference for their jobs. And they will likely work for you, probably for very cheap, maybe even free. But have them target your market, go out and do your data gathering for you and build up your database. Then email them. Email everyone in your database. Offer them something of value and go from there. Okay, I'm over time, so I'm going to do a quick round of questions. So, yes?
Other than companies like Moz or HubSpot, who are some startups you think are doing a really good job at inbound marketing?
I don't have enough insight to say of all the like I know some of the companies here at Capital Factory, but not many, and all of them are working now to get their inbound marketing going.
What about more established ones? Is anyone you think is doing a nice job that would be good to look at?
I can tell you that, well, I love the way that HubSpot markets HubSpot. I think they just do a fantastic job. I did a presentation a few weeks ago with one of the founders of HubSpot, and he said their database is like 25 million because they offer everything, all their content, here's a bunch of templates for you to use, here's a bunch of how-tos, here's 25 things you need to do on your website today, all for an email in exchange. It's fantastic. They built up this huge list that way. Yes?
So, as the email marketing manager of Dell, I think this might have been like the pre-inbound era,
yes.
2007, and we all hate cold calling. How do you evaluate what ESP you're going to work with, and how has that changed now? How would you change your evaluation?
So when I go back to the days when I was email marketing at Dell, I spent about 1.5 years doing nothing but email. It was hugely valuable for my career because I focused on that one channel very deeply over 1.5 years. I learned a lot. It's no longer relevant, by the way, but I learned a lot about deliverability metrics and open metrics and so on and so forth. back then I used an agency. It was Dell, so we had big budgets, and I had an email service agency that did all of the ESP for me. I think that company was called, I don't know, I can't remember. I'll have to dig it up, but I can tell you who it was. I think they probably exist today. I think they are a huge data warehouse now at this point. I didn't have to worry about choosing ESP, sorry.
You didn't have any, you know if you were looking for a better solution or something that would work better, would that thing come to mind, or?
No, because it was Dell and they didn't like to change agencies and vendors. The one thing I did was get a creative agency out and a new creative agency in, and I only did that on a women in prayer. Like, I don't know how I did that.
And if you were searching for one now, what would you do?
If I was searching for an ESP provider now,
Yeah.
I would want one that could help me navigate the technical side of email, which is something that I'm foreign to. I can design an email, I can talk about subject lines and open rates, but when it gets down to what flags set off, what filters, which set off, whatever, I'm totally foreign to that. You know, how many emails can I send a day without setting off flags? All that kind of stuff, the deliverability, that whole technical side is just lost on me.
That's what I'm thinking.
Good. Yes.
If you look back at all the projects you've done over the last several years, what's the longest, deepest sales funnel you had to work with in terms of time?
From a sales cycle perspective, how long are the sales cycles? I think 6 months.
Lucky dog.
So can I go back to the email question? And I know this is kind of a technicality, but something I struggle with. Do you put a read receipt on a flag to tell people like that you get a notification that you read? Is that something that, being in, having been in marketing and financial anything, is that something that you think would just totally turn someone off and they just
So her question is, what about read receipts? Going back to email marketing, if I am receiving an email and there's a read receipt request on it, does it turn me off or not? Yeah, it does. It turns me off. Sorry. I even on my phone, like the text messages.
The right one, but it just.
Yeah.
It's so tempting.
I make my children turn the read receipts on, so I know that when they've read my emails, that I turn mine off. So they can. I'm a terrible parent. Yes.
There are tools for that kind of stuff already out there. Either you can use TowTap or SWare or stuff like that. And even like prospecting, there are tools like Genius that can build a list for you and prospect.
Yeah, I will tell you HubSpot has this tool called Get Signals, which yeah, I don't know much about it. I know that I'll tell you this, my boyfriend was using my computer on his Embarcadero email, and my browser had Get Signals on it, and so 3 days later I'm getting all these emails like, Tony Johnson has read your email subject line, rad license 493 whatever, and I'm like, what is going on? And then I felt like a total snooper, because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting read receipts on his emails. So Get Signals has some bugs. Don't share your computer and use that. That's my tip.
So last question.
No more questions? Yes.
So if the call to action, if I actually want to have a phone conversation with somebody, that's the best way for me to actually convert somebody. Through all this email drip and everything, how do you get to that, for me, the golden egg of getting the phone number, a meeting time, that type of thing?
That is a great question. So if your golden call to action is a phone call, how do you convert them digitally to a phone call? So if it were me, I would have them fill out a form and I would call them. Instead of asking them to jump from one channel to the next, keep them on that path and you jump channels. You call them. Thank you. Thanks for your time.